Hey everyone, it's Claudia, and welcome to Take a Moment to pause with purpose. And the does represent the new topic that I bring to you each and every week that I hope will inspire and encourage you to pause for a moment, think about what I'm saying, and maybe be provoked to tweak perspective just a little bit. Because sometimes the smallest change can have a major impact going forward. Each week I come to you completely dependent on the Lord, and it has been quite a while now. It's like over a year now. And I've had to learn to trust him completely. I had to jump off the cliff and into his arms, believing that he would give me topics and he would fill my mouth with a message that he would like me to give to you to bless you and share what's on his heart. You can believe with me when I say it's been a time of transformation, a time of transition. I know we've all been going through a lot, but it's been exhilarating, frustrating, scary at times. But when we're grounded in the Lord and trust Him, things will work out and He will give us our footing all the time. And we should not be afraid. We should have our peace in Him. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Take a Moment to pause with purpose, and on podcast stations such as Apple and Spotify. And also take a moment to pause with purpose. I would love it if you would like, subscribe, and share, but also comment. All of this would help grow the channel and get 2026 off to a rip roaring start. And before I get started with the message for this week, I just want to wish all of you a very happy, blessed, healthy, prosperous new year. I believe that the Lord is with us and He's going to guide us and give us the wisdom to take on each day, and that we walk with Him in all things. So this week is take a moment to weave the tapestry of your life. Now, as I've been taking a little time off between Christmas and New Year's, I did a lot of praying, asking the Lord, to guide me in all things and to give me wisdom for the podcast and other things throughout my life for 2026. And this started on Christmas Day. The Lord started to speak to me about the tapestry of our lives. And I went to see the movie David, the animated film David by Angel Studios. Wonderful film, absolutely wonderful film. And there was a song in there that I just broke down and started to cry. It really spoke to my heart. And the song was called Tapestry. And one of the lines I remember from the song is, "There's a reason for the colors in your story." And life has been a roller coaster ride. I'm sure it's been for many of you as well. We have our ups and downs. We go forward, we go backwards, we go sideways. There are things that can upend us, but there's a path that we're on. And we weave this tapestry of our lives. Sometimes we don't even realize we are weaving it. And years ago, when I lived in New York, I love museums, and museum is a museum lover's paradise. So, but there is a museum that's in Upper Manhattan. It's called the Cloisters, and it's a magnificent Middle Ages kind of museum, uh, tucked high above Manhattan, overlooking the Hudson River and the beauty of the George Washington Bridge. And on a beautiful spring day, it's just magnificent to pack a picnic lunch and just overlook the Hudson and just meditate and pray or just take in the beauty of the scenery. But in this museum are all of these tapestries from the Middle Ages. And these things are enormous. They're absolutely enormous, but they are breathtakingly beautiful. And what is so magnificent about the tapestries is that they are painstaking to create. And as I said, these things are huge. But when we look at the front of a tapestry, we see the picture. It is beautiful, it's magnificent, but the stitching that goes into it's time consuming, it's painstaking, it takes a long, long time. But when one looks at the back of a tapestry, there's nothing but knots and fringes and things that we don't want to see. But to me, that is reminiscent of our lives. We are building, or God is building in us this tapestry of our lives that we are weaving along with Him, that sometimes we don't even know what the picture that He's producing through us. But there are so many colors in the tapestry, and that's why the song Tapestry touched me, because there's a reason for the colors in our life, but we sometimes don't even know it. We don't even see it. We can only see the microcosm of our lives instead of the full vastness of the picture that God is creating. But when we live our lives, when the tapestry of our lives is being woven, it is painstaking. We have a lot to learn. We have sorrow, we have joy, we have grief, we have a day-to-day stuff that we just go and do because we have to. We have work, we have family, we have children, we have so many things in our lives that can go smoothly or get upended. And then there are the knots and those fringes that we have to work through to continue to weave that picture of our tapestry. And I just believe that the Lord is sharing through me that as we enter a new year, 2026, when we look back on our lives, sometimes, I mean, I look back at 2025 and it started out so horrifically here in California. Of course, we had those horrific fires, that so much devastation, so many lives lost, so much property damage. And there was a fallout for forever with the bad air quality and people trying to put their lives back together again and trying to find places to live. And thankfully, so many people pulled resources together to help people with places to stay, clothes on their backs, food for them to eat. And that's what we should be doing. But looking back at the tumult of that experience, oftentimes we don't see it, but God has a purpose for all of that. Things happen in life. That was horrific, horrific. There were earthquakes, there were storms of all kinds of things. There was rioting. There was, oh my gosh, this 2025 was just, there was so much going on, but each year has its stuff. It just does. And how do we deal with that stuff as we weave our life together, as we start putting those pieces together? And then sometimes, not sometimes, always, the Lord will start to unveil the picture. Now, for myself, I've talked about this, but it's something so real to me and something I live every day. I always tried to, do what everybody wanted me to do. I didn't know who I was. And I lived a life in corporate America. Worked all day. I went to school at night, got my MBA, managed my way to go up the corporate ladder. And it was a fabric, it was a threads in my life. And I learned a lot. I got a lot out of it. I grew. I learned how to manage businesses. I learned how to manage people. I got excited about certain businesses I was on. But it wasn't who I was meant to be, what I was meant to do. But I glean from the colors in that portion of my life. And there was a reason for the colors in that part of my life. And I can draw upon it for where I am today. And where am I today? I say, if those of you are new, you don't know. So I just welcome you to the broadcast if you are new. I was in Manhattan on 9/11, and, that upended my life. I wound up, um, like everybody else, dealing with the panic of that day, dealing with the fear of that time. And a month later, I had a panic attack. I wound up in the emergency room thinking I was having a heart attack, but thankfully it wasn't. And 2 months later, I walked out of corporate America, never to look back. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but God does. God did. And I was given the beauty of time with the package that I got when I left the company. And I was exploring different options, but I realized I no longer wanted to be in corporate. I was doing this for 23 years and I was sick all the time. I was miserable. But I took a class for fun on commercials for real people just because I got a brochure in the mail and I said, okay. So I did. I was in Manhattan and I went to this class, and one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was going after my childhood dream of being an actress. And I did a showcase. There was a manager, agent in the audience, and he contacted me the next day. We got together and he signed me on, and I wound up booking my very first audition on Law and Order, and hence my acting career was born. And I did things along the way. I mean, I took classes. I don't didn't just put my toe in the water. Oh, let's do this. No, but God. And so I got my SAG union card right away. At that point, it wasn't SAG after, it was just SAG for those who were in the industry. But soon after that, I made my way through and I learned a lot. And then weaving this new fabric, weaving these new threads in my life that I didn't know what I was doing, except I just knew I was supposed to move to Los Angeles. And I did. In 2005, I moved to Los Angeles. I sold my home in faith, and I moved to Los Angeles. And in this time frame, I really had to learn to trust the Lord. Have I been able to do that all the time? No, it's been a journey. It's been those threads of faith that I've had to weave into the fabric of my life. Didn't know where he was taking me, but I just knew I was supposed to follow this passion in my heart to be an actress. It's been colorful, but it's had a lot of knots and fringes along the way, a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, a lot of upheaval. And so I didn't know that I was going to go through what I went through, but God did. God does. And in the midst of all of that, I wound up being in a very serious car accident in 2010, and I had to battle back for 14 years to get my cognitive skills back. Couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't think, couldn't process information. So it's been a long journey. But in that fringe and knots of my life, I had to learn to rediscover who I am. The old me was gone, and I had this new person emerge. And one of the things that emerged from me was this ability to write poetry. Never liked poetry, but this was a way of my healing from the trauma of the accident. And I had developed PTSD from the trauma of it. As I said, I was almost killed. It was pretty bad, but God. And I have had to go through the circuitous route of trusting God, dealing with the physical um, upheaval of my life, the emotional upheaval, the financial upheaval of what that accident caused. And I'm still battling back from a lot of it. But I thank God that I've had people in my life to guide me through, to be with me, to stand with me, to support me in many levels. And one of the things that I couldn't do because of the accident, I couldn't process information. And the fact that I'm here doing this podcast, I had to teach myself how to do that. And that was like next to impossible because of the brain injury I had sustained. But God, and there were a lot of tears, but I figured it out. I figured out how to put a podcast together. I figured out how to edit my podcast. And it was very time consuming. It was scary. I didn't know what I was doing, but I stepped out in faith to weave these new threads of my tapestry into my life. And I'm doing this, and now I'm so comfortable being in front of my little computer here with my camera and trusting God. I had to come to this place of trusting God. And I thank God for all my years in corporate where I had presentations to do. I was always on the forefront. I had to talk to people. I had to lead meetings. So I had a confidence level to be able to do that. Plus, all of my acting training on top of that gave me this confidence to just and come into my own to just be able to speak from the depths of my being and trust God in bringing a message to you without any notes. without any notes. That's how far the Lord has brought me to weave the tapestry of my life. So I ask you to examine the tapestry of your life. Now, we're not going to reach the fulfillment of our tapestry until God takes us home or he comes back, one of the two. But there's a purpose for everything we go through. And it's God, as we grow in him, how he unveils to put on display the tapestry of our lives, what he has formed in us to do, what he has made in us to be for all the world to see, because that's who he is. He's got the grand plan, and we just see the twists and the turns and the knots and the nubs of the tapestry. But then we start to see the picture as we go through, and we kind of start to breathe a sigh of relief as we go through another dimension of our own lives. And he sees down the picture and he gives us a vision of what we are, where we're going, and where to write the vision down. I mean, we can't go through life aimlessly. And I was always, as I know, a planner, and I had to write everything down, and I do. I've written the vision down that the Lord has given me for my own life. And it is so big, it is so impossible for me as an individual to accomplish it, that's where my trust and faith in the Lord has to come in, as he continues to weave and bring me to that place and bring the colors to new depth, new richness, to unveil the tapestry in me. And each day is a new unveiling of things I learn, things I bring in, things you bring in that you didn't even think you can do. But when you partner with the Lord, when he gives you the wisdom, the creativity, the ability to do things beyond your own natural ability, because it's in you. And when you trust him, he's making the picture. He's weaving the picture that is in the front and not in the back. Now, another thing about tapestry that the Lord was speaking to me was last week. I was listening to a sermon by C.S. Lewis. And he also talked about God's tapestry and how he is weaving the fabric of our lives. And so that is why I am talking about this tapestry. Now, what the Lord also did for me when I wrote poetry, it was a very healing thing that I needed to do. And I can see the journey I was on from the healing process, from the accident to writing each poem, from the pain I was feeling to the healing process, to the joy that was unfolding, to coming into the richness of who I am as this new person that is completely reliant on the Lord and does have more joy than I used to, because I was like, A equals B equals C, go on there. I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I didn't enjoy the journey. And there were some things along the journey I'm like, again, the knots and the nubs, but they come to the tapestry of my life. They come to the tapestry of your life. So step back and start seeing your life. I mean, get out pictures and look at where you were and where you are today and the things you're achieving and the goals that you have and how you're going to get there. Primarily, trust the Lord to give you the vision, the wisdom to be able to write it down and give you the ability to get to the vision he's depositing in you. So as I wrote the poetry, it was very healing for me. And the Lord reminded me that I wrote a poem by the Holy Spirit called Tapestry. And I'm going to share it with you this week. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen, because each during the week, I do these little clips of a minute and 30 seconds for social media, and it enables me to give little snippets of the podcast episode to others who are not subscribed. So I'm praying that I can work this out somehow. I don't know how, but I just know that I'm supposed to read my poem Tapestry for you this week, to meditate on it, to think about what the Lord is doing in your life. Because I sort of see what he's doing in mine. I believe I'm on the right path, and I have to trust him. But this makes sense as I read it, why he wants me to do it, because at the top of the year. So I pray this blesses you. Tapestry. A life can be looked at in isolation. Each day passes, another year flies by. Yet entering a new year prompts reflection. Lessons are learned, plans are made or changed. Hopes and dreams surface with renewed expectation, but one's life is a series of events and circumstances, listening to the drumbeat of voices that shape our decisions and choices. There are a lot of joys and sorrows, trials and victories. There are times we are sharp as an arrow, hitting the targets along life's course. Then there are the curveballs that shift our resolve, triggering fear, confusion, and doubt. It is at these times we must take a step back and examine the journey we are on. Each day builds on the one before, forming a life that is woven together with a divine plan that is often overlooked. It is so easy to get caught up in day to day affairs and miss the majestic picture that is being revealed. Each life is a tapestry of God's handiwork, where before the beginning of time, our purpose is sealed. Creating a tapestry is painstaking. The knots and fringes seem ugly and overwhelming, and they are the building blocks as the picture unfolds. No longer the focus at the time of unveiling, a priceless masterpiece worthy of display, for all to witness the miracle of the Master's hand who has guided each step, comforted each heartache, trumpeted each success, each stitch lovingly sewn with pinpoint accuracy, revealing the perfection of life and promises fulfilled by the one and only who has all supremacy. I ask you to meditate on that and take a moment to weave the tapestry of your life.